Hi, I'm Noel Bentley, and I'm the host of TEDxBearCreekPark. Our event will be showcasing 12 speakers on March 27th, and we're lucky today to have Grace Sinats here, one of our speakers. Good morning, Grace. How are you doing?
Pretty good. How about you, Noel?
Oh, pretty good, thanks. Now, Grace is a climate and youth rights advocate, and I'd like you, Grace, to actually fill us in. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, 100%. So right now I am a high school student. I'm finishing up my grade 10 year this year. And for the past kind of 2 years, I've been really involved with the climate activism movement within my own community, which is Victoria, BC. And I have been kind of organizing climate strikes and different rallies for about 2 years now with my group called Our Earth, Our Future, which is a completely youth-run activism group. I've also been really involved with the Vote 16 movement, which is a worldwide movement that is supporting groups to lower the voting age to 16 across the world. But specifically, I've been involved with Vote 16 BC. And I think another big thing is within my own school, I've also been really involved with a program at my school called Institute for Global Solutions, which is a interdisciplinary course that focuses on current events and climate solutions, and as it says in the name, solutions on how to save the world. So, yeah.
And I'm curious, can you explain exactly what a climate strike is?
Yeah, so the climate strike movement was started back in 2019 by youth climate activist Greta Thunberg, who originally was just one person skipping school to sit outside the Swedish parliament with a sign that said "School Strike for Climate." And within a year, millions of people were mobilizing. And honestly, a climate strike can be whatever you make it, especially with COVID-19. We obviously can't gather in large groups anymore, but we found a bunch of different ways to mobilize young people kind of any way we can. So whether that's getting 1,000 people chanting on a Zoom call or 20,000 people in front of the BC legislature, we've made it work.
Well, that's great. And you also started to touch on what your idea is, what you'll be speaking on in your TED Talk. I wonder if you could tell us what you'll be talking about. Not too many spoilers, but yeah, go ahead and give us an idea.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, I've been working with the youth activist group Vote 16. So basically, my talk is centered around why young voices are going to help us build a stronger democracy in Canada and across the world, and why education, combining kind of education and voting habits, will improve our voter turnout and will improve voting habits that will hopefully stay with my generation for a lifetime.
Oh, fair enough. And given you're involved in so many things, and yet you decided to put your hat in and apply for a TED Talk, and now you're TEDx Talk, and you're going to be doing one. So what inspired you to do that?
Honestly, it's kind of a weird story. One day I was kind of just sitting in front of my computer where I'm sitting now, watching a TEDx talk for school. And I just remember feeling so inspired by the person speaking. And it was another TED talk about democracy, someone talking about how, I think it was in Brazil, what they did to get voters more involved. And that kind of got me thinking about my work with that, and how TEDx is just such a wonderful platform to be able to share your message through an audience of thousands of people. And I kind of realized the impact that it could make. And I think right then I just started writing down ideas, and eventually I had 4 pages of just like different ideas I could incorporate in. And then over the next month and a half or so, I kind of learned more about what it actually meant to be a TEDx speaker and submitted my application. And I'm so glad I did.
Well, I mean, we are as well. Is there anything about this whole process of preparing to deliver your talk that's been a surprise to you, something just completely unexpected?
Oh, I did not expect my talk to change as much as it did. And especially my talk coming in and then hearing all of the knowledge from the amazing coaches and curators and just realizing how much talent was in one room or Zoom call, my talk changed so much, and it changed for the better. And I think it's grown so much, and I did not expect that at all.
Oh, and fair enough. And what happens afterwards? I know, after the events just at the end of March, and are you thinking of doing anything more in terms of your public speaking, or what happens afterwards for Grace?
Yeah, so I think I just remembering something I think I said originally way back in the application process, but the work never stops, of course. I think after TEDx, I think I'm going to have to figure out what I'm doing next, but definitely there are so many movements and causes that I would love to be able to put time into. I think it's just a matter of choosing which one will have the most impact. And I think as we kind of adapt more to COVID-19, I think there's going to be a lot of new opportunities. And I think in terms of public speaking, that's definitely something that combines with the climate strikes. Of course, speaking in front of 20,000 people can be a little intimidating, but it's definitely something I really like doing. And I hope I get to do that more in the future.
Oh, absolutely. Now, your talk centers on something that is to do with youth, which kind of begs the question: what about everyone else? Like, why should people of all walks of life come and hear your talk?
100%. So I think that's definitely that's something I worked with my coaches on, is how can my idea apply to every generation, not just Gen Z. And I think that the main reason why my talk applies to everyone is that Gen Z has been such a kind of powerhouse in terms of change, but so has every other generation previous. And I think everyone can relate to knowing that young people have made the most change historically. And I think that that'll be the same for future generations. And I think past generations can relate to, the activists in the 70s lowering the voting age from 21 to 18, or the activists in the 1920s giving the right to vote to women. I think that these movements have happened across generations, and I think that's something that every generation can relate to.
Okay. I mean, we talked about activism. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are feeling the motivation to do something more, but they might feel a little intimidated, or they're not sure where to start. If there was someone who you were to counsel or mentors, would you have any advice for them to say, hey, this is what you can start doing to make a difference in your world?
Absolutely. So I think one of the biggest barriers to why I didn't get involved sooner, I wanted to for a very long time, but I felt that I was too small. What I could do was not enough, or what I wanted to do was too big and I couldn't even touch it. But I think the biggest thing is that no amount of change is too small or too big. And if you see something that interests you, if you see someone who just inspires you, send them an email, get involved, follow some interesting Instagram accounts, do what you think is right. I think when I was finding how to do a TED Talk, I went on the TEDx website and found TED Talks near me. And then for some reason, the day after I had found the website, there was an info session, and it just kind of aligned perfectly. But that never would have happened if I didn't decide to just Google it or send an email to get to that info session. So I'd say, just even if you think that it won't amount to anything or that it'll take years, just do it, get started. Start no time better than the present.
Oh, fair enough. I love your phrase. You're 15 and I was feeling bad because I hadn't done enough yet. Oh, all right. We're just wrapping up now. Here's your chance to have your say, or a couple moments to give your little pitch. Why should people come and see the TED Talks on March 27th?
Well, I think from my personal experience, I've never worked or heard a group of 12 more talented people. And honestly, I don't know how the curators did it. They picked 12 people that just baffle me every single time I hear their TED Talks, even if I've heard their talk 4 or 5 times. And I think that TEDxBearCreekPark, even if it's a little different this year, even if we can't have an audience, it's going to be just the most impactful event I've ever seen, I think. And I hope that my message does convey to the audience. I think one thing that TED Talks always talk about is conveying the idea from the speaker to the audience. And I really hope that my idea can be engaging. And I know that every other speaker's idea is going to be just as engaging.
Yeah. Well, great. I really appreciate that, Grace. So Grace will be one of the speakers, March 27th, TEDx Bear Creek Park, 2021. It will be broadcast and it's complimentary. We have some very generous sponsors who are enabling us to allow people to register. You just go to TEDxBearCreekPark.ca and you'll be able to get a link to see the event. And we're looking forward, like you said, the goal is at least 10,000, but we're already reaching across the world to be a huge community coming together that day. So thanks very much, Grace. Appreciate it. And we'll see you again very soon.